Therefore, the chiropractic adjustment is a neurological event, not a mechanical event. So now we're going to break things up a little bit here and do a muscle testing demo. So you all have had muscle testing and I've shown you, but let's just reiterate. So you want to come on up? And we'll just reinforce a few things here. So if you hold your arm out parallel to the floor and you hold it real nice and strong, and if I push down and you resist, we'll see what happens. Hold strong and hold even stronger, nice and strong, hold, beautiful. So that's a nice strong lock. And what we need to understand is, again, there's three components here. We're pushing on the bone, which is attached to a muscle and controlled by the brain. So all three of those have to work in order for that arm to stay solid. Now, if you move your left leg forward and then you try to hold strong again, just like before, hold, and now it's not working well at all. Now, some people would say, okay, well the muscle, for some reason the muscle went weak. And that's not really a correct way of saying it, because the bone is still there, the bone didn't go anywhere, the muscle is still there, the muscle, it's not like you lost half the muscle, it's still the same cross-section area. The only thing that can change is the signal from the brain. So when we check a muscle, we are checking the brain. We're checking the function, we're checking in this moment, we're checking the signal strength of the brain. The other thing that we learned from this is that we would think that the arm is an independent body part, that it takes care of itself. If it's strong here, why shouldn't it be strong here? What is it that has to do with this? And now we start understanding that anything, anywhere in the body can affect anything else in the body. And why? Because they're all processed centrally. So when we change something down here, we're changing the signal input. Remember, the body processes 1 billion signals bits per second. So if we change some of those bits, we can change the total output. So this is just like a computer. How do you talk to a computer? You use a mouse and keyboard. The mouse and keyboard creates electrical signals that go into the computer and change the input so that we produce a different output. In the body, we can change the position of a body part and we change the input, therefore the output is different.
Makes sense. I thought it was just the balance, shifting the weight and things,
Yeah. So in this case, it is normal and expected, because ever since you were 6 months old, you've developed something called a cross-crawl pattern. So when one leg moves forward, the brain anticipates and tries to get the same arm to move back and the opposite arm to move forward. So when you do something that doesn't make sense, that confuses the brain. And it says, no, this needs to relax and come back. So that's why you can't hold it up. But it's all about software. When we're changing the input, we change the output. Okay? Make sense? So you've all seen this before, but I also want to make a point, if any of you are ever tempted. So this is an example of a normal function, of a normal inhibition of something. Now, put one foot on the floor and the other on the rug. And hold that nice and strong, and hold. And that's not working either. So that little difference in leg length also changes the input. It is not this input that the body expects, it's off by 1/4 inch. And that's enough of a signal change that the brain gets confused again. because it's not what it expects. So that's an example of a structural stress. Can you imagine if you're walking around with shoes that are uneven, or if there's a little bit of a misalignment in your pelvis, and you take 1 million steps in a month, and every time there's a little bit of distorted input? Over time, this adds up, and that's why this stuff matters. So that's a structural stress. What about chemical stress? So now we need to just understand a little bit more about the world we live in so that this doesn't look too weird. But according to quantum physics, everything is energy. You take the body down to its smallest parts, its molecules and its atoms and its subatomic particles, and then all of a sudden it's all empty space and energy. That means that your whole body is energy, and the little crystals in these packets are also energy. So that energy interacts with each other, and your energy field can sense the quality and nature of this energy. So let's see what your body thinks of this. So hold nice and strong and lock that. Excellent. Now hold those for me and hold strong, and not much is happening. So these are two very popular sweeteners called Equal and Splenda. And your body knows that they're no good for you because the vibration doesn't match anything that has to do with life. These were developed by pesticide companies. When they discovered, they were trying to make pesticides to kill little bugs. They found that these taste sweet, and they said, let's make human food out of them. And that holds true for all artificial sweeteners. So just an extra reinforcement to stay away from that stuff. And then we also talked about emotional stress. So let's do that real quick. And we can demonstrate that very simply by, if you think about something that you enjoy and hold nice and strong, and it's rock solid. And then you think about something that really bothers you, something you really don't like, and hold strong. And that's usually the one that gives the absolute weakest muscle response. You can test this with your friends. It works amazingly. Now think about the solution to the thing that you don't like, and hold strong. And it's rock solid. So this is what happens to us when we have emotional stress. When we think about things we don't like, we are stressing and disrupting the flow and the healing in our bodies. When we think about things we like and the things the way we want them, then our bodies get strong and they function much better. Okay? Thank you very much. So, now we need to understand one more principle. And the first really important principle is the balance of the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. Because the body cannot do both things at once. So if you just understand one thing, is that the stress pushes the body out of balance, and it cannot heal at the same time. So balance between sympathetic and parasympathetic is crucial. Now the next thing we need to start understanding is how is the physical tissue created? How does the body replenish the tissues? So every cell in your body needs two things to live. It needs food and stimulation. Okay, every cell. So the food, that's the stuff you eat, and the oxygen. But stimulation is absolutely crucial. So what happens to a muscle that you don't use? Yep, atrophy. What happens to a tennis player that plays with one hand only and not the other? The hand he plays with that arm is twice as big as the other one. And that makes a lot of sense because the body says use it or lose it. It's going to send the resources to the place that is activated because that's where it makes sense to expend resources and energy to do something. If you don't use it, you don't need it. Okay?